So, where we are with Zephyr. Any new people who heard this is the first time that we have with Zephyr? Oh, we've got some new hands. Okay. So, welcome. Zephyr is an RTOS that we started back in 2016. So we're almost at 10 years now. Yeah, exactly. We'll be having our 10th anniversary celebrations in Embedded World in March. It is a small RTOS. We have designed it to be as small as it can, going up from there. And it's on a wide range of platforms. I don't have a lot of intro slides, but we are highly connected and it's very power efficient. And it has fairly wide persistent at this point in time now. So if you've not encountered Zephyr, definitely check our GitHub out. In fact, we've got over 8,000 forks now up in the wild. And you can start clicking on those and just start experimenting, and you're amazed what you see, forks. These stats are from October. And as you can see, Zephyr has had more contributors in a month period in some places than some of these other RTOSs have had in their entire lifetime. So we have a very vibrant community. We've got a lot of commits going on. And we were actually sitting, with over 20, that month, we were almost 2,600 commits per month. And that, when you actually do the math, comes down to 3.5 commits per hour. So it's moving fast. Most of it's a lot of hardware. Quite frankly, it's mostly drivers, sensors, things like that. But this is part of what is going on there for those sorts of numbers. To give it context, the Linux kernel is about 9 commits an hour and has been that way for about 5 years. So we're starting to approach half of it. Okay, and for all those commits to happen, there has to be contributors. And as you can see, our contributors have been going up to velocity is that increase it. Which means that our commits go up each month if you've got more contributors. It's pretty straightforward math. And we're getting a lot of cloning and visiting of the site as, GitHub can report to us. So it's always an interesting challenge to understand where your open source project can actually be used in the wild. And these are some of the forks, some of the other ways are some ways to get a little bit of clue about how it is, but because people don't have to tell us. But we are seeing more and more adoption of it and people contributing upstream, which is even better. So these are the things that are, that keep the project vibrant. Oops, still out there. In fact, there's over 900 boards now supported in the repo. And there's just a small sample of them. It's a really good chance if there's a board you're interested in, you'll probably see something either there or something close to it there. And you can build off from there. We've got a lot of the, did I put up a BeagleBoard sign? Oops, sorry. I'll put a BeagleBoard on next. Jason's here from BeagleBoard organization. I'll put one of those onto it. But yeah, we've got some cool ones there. And as you can sort of see, the boards have been going up to across. And that's really the commits. Okay, a lot of the commits you're seeing, a lot of velocities, putting in the boards, putting in reference information and so forth. So managing that's an interesting challenge for us. And I think there's almost 300 at this point now, sensors. We're getting pretty close to that. And so again, if you're looking for a piece of hardware that's out there, there's a pretty good chance that something close to be there letting out.
303.
Is it 303? Oh, I can update that slide. Thank you. You heard it here first. Supported hardware. All the main platforms are pretty much supported. I don't know, does anyone spawn anything that they want to see on here that isn't?
Smart Fusion 2.
Smart Fusion 2, huh? Yeah, okay. Anyhow, well, forts are out there, as they say. But yeah, we actually, the latest architectures that just got contributed upstream with the RX from Minnesota. And so we're starting to get a lot of pickup in that part of the ecosystem now too. And one of the things I'm finding really fascinating, and I can't wait for the new version to come out, is CNC. Have people heard of CNCF, Cloud Native Compute Foundation? okay, they tend to look at, so they're busy, Kubernetes is busy trying to get close to Linux, okay? So they're always measuring every 6 months what's going on. And they sort of do everything in the foundation where Kubernetes is top. Then they do everything at the Linux Foundation. And then they leave top 30 of all open source projects. And what I'm kind of excited with is, hello. We're showing up here with Zephyr at 19. So we're in the top 20 of all open source projects in terms of velocity. And that's an embedded project. I actually think it's going to be higher. We are still waiting for the January numbers to come out. I think it'll be slightly higher. But the fact is that we're sort of sitting in the same space as most of those well-known projects. Is kind of exciting for an embedded project. Go for it.
Can you explain what the access are? What was the...
Sure. This one is the PRs and issues. This is the commits. And then they're sorted mostly by the number of unique contributors. That's how they seek to calculate velocity.
So RTOS has a lot of issues.
Yeah, same. Yep. Yep, I would say that. And actually, I'd say it's got a lot of issues. It's also got a lot of commits, right? So it's rather actually inside the Linux Foundation, Zephyr was number 4 until PyTorch joined the Linux Foundation. Then we got dropped out to 5. But minor things that way.
Is this slide deck all public?
Yeah, that's public. It'll be available through the meetup slides and everything else. And this is just a small sample of some of the products that are actually available and running on Zephyr right now. From things like biomonitoring rigs from Samsung is running Zephyr. We know that. Again, through detective work, rather than telling us. Basically, we looked at the QDIDs from Bluetooth. And so, guys, we can determine things because they've been reusing someone else's certifications and things like that. And that's how we know. And things like tracking livestock, hearing aids, the bio effectively. And then all of Google's Chromebooks are now running Zephyr. The framework laptops got running Zephyr, the keyboards. How many people have a Keychron keyboard? Anyone here? Is that new week about? Okay. Might go first as well. Might as well? Okay. So I actually, at CES, I actually talked to the Keychron folk when I was there. And they're big enthusiastic users of Zephyr, so there's a pretty good chance you've got Zephyr now. And your key, if it's a recent one.
I've also a couple of Chromebooks not very good club.
Oh, so well, they're just all. So you've got a lot of these things. So you've got Zephyr. You're running Zephyr in your devices. And like I say, this is the challenge with embedded is you don't know where it is until you talk to people, and then they'll let you know. And then we have things like wind turbines. It's actually up in space in a couple places. Word of mouth has it surfacing on Moon somewhere, but I don't know anything. I was told a word of mouth is pointer to a hardware. And then the solid state circuits. So we're finding it across a wide range of things right now, mostly wearables as well as, in the firmware and various devices. Oops. And one of the things that we started with, like I say, well, we've launched this project back in 2016. There really wasn't a lot of development tools around. And this has been one of the areas that's really been, slowly and surely growing and building up. We were making a conscious effort to build up to make it easy for golfers to work with this project. Oops. Hello. There. Oh, and I think we're succeeding because they seem to like it. The stars have approved. And we now have a variety of IDEs. So if, there's a pretty good chance one of the IDEs you're familiar with is now there. We started off with the GNU compilers initially, and then we worked hard to get the GNU isms out so we could do LLVM. And then last year, we finally got a commercial compiler for Zephyr. IAR is good in the sense that it also is safety certified, which lines up with our vision of being able to do safety certification as well as security. There's a wide range of debuggers and tracing tools available with this, as is the emulation and simulation software. In particular, I'll give a quick shout out to the Reno, which is coming from Nanmicro. Dashboard, and I adore, okay? I absolutely adore this dashboard because literally they take every configuration in our repo and they've got like 9 or 10 apps, and they compile them and they build them. And so you've got the status of how well everything is building all the way through your repo. And they're running it on a simulator. So it's all being done on a simulator. So they use the Zephyr repo to test their simulator. And I like it because one of the things I really like about it is the fact that they turn on the automatic SBOM generation. Okay? So if you actually go and look at any of the images, you mouse over their little thing, and you click on it, you can actually look at source SBOM, for the Zephyr sources, source SBOM for the apps, the build SBOM, the stack of those source SBOMs, and be very precise about what actually is in your image. So the fact that you've got this SBOM readiness, behind the scenes on Matic, is putting Zephyr in usually a good place for going after the CRA aspects. They're coming down the fight. This kind of thing is being focused on how we can be effective for CRA is one of the kids we're looking at as a community in the security group. Okay. One of the challenges we have had for the last few years, and we're getting more solutions now, is getting training. As there's more people using Zephyr, there's more people wanting to see training and developers. And we've got a fair number of training partners who are working with it. They started off with some, but Zephyr is one of our newest members. Meningo is doing a new member as well. As we've had AC6, Dulos, Innovex, and Goliath, Percepio, as well as Nordic and DLF. Have some training available that can be used. And then we also have a variety of our members, as well as others who are FIDE services. So if you don't, I don't know, do I put the Mine logo on there now? Okay, well, you just need to tell me. I can, like I say, I'll not put logos on unless you can tell me that I can put it on. Okay. But yeah, so the services and consulting, are you guys up on our website? It's free to register for this stuff,
We'll make sure to get up all of them.
Please do if you want more business with Zephyr, because we do try it. That at least helps people find people who can do the work. And then there's a fair number of security libraries. Obviously, the trusted firmware, well, that's because it's ultra commercial. And then we're one of the things I think we're going to be seeing a lot of growth for the Zephyr is going to be on the intelligent edge, the high edge, where you do a lot of processing over both the lightweight and with power constraints, and then communicating upwards. And we've got MLearn, TensorFlow Lite, and Edge Impulse all working well at Zephyr for several years now. Well, TensorFlow Lite and Edge Impulse, and I'm not sure about the history on MLearn, but it's by new FFX.
Your talks all night about it.
Yeah. So, you're starting to get options, and it's in the repo. We've got a lot of language runtimes now. One of the things that was kind of exciting was that CircuitPython decided they weren't going to support. They were going to use that as their underpinning for a lot of the work that they were going to be doing. And we've had MicroPython as well for a while. So JavaScript, Rust, Lua, C++, and then the firmware and science libraries, some connections, and OI Manipul. So we've got a reasonably indeed, or at least we're heading in that direction now with quantum libraries to help build on top of. And similarly, remote management. See that Intelligent Edge? There are various solutions that are coming up here for that. And the graphical interfaces, this has been emerging over the last 2 to 3 years with LBGL and MicroEdge and Qt and Slint. So Qt actually joined the project, as did Edge. And then we're starting to see a bit more on the robotic side coming in now. Specifically, we've had MicroROS for several years, but Cognipilot, the drone, is now working with Zephyr. And then last summer, NASA had some interns and worked on porting over F prime to work with Zephyr. So this is all part of it going into some of these more high assurance areas over time. And so what's new? Obviously, we put out the release last November, and we have a variety of new features, including improvement on Twister and developer experiences, and obviously load monitoring and scale. So I'd encourage you to read the release notes and sort of look and see what new features are emerging as they come out. There's usually a podcast that goes into details. Benjamin helps host that with the release team. And so now talking a little bit about security with Zephyr, Let's clap on here. See how fast or slow I am. Anyhow, securities, we actually started the same week we launched the project, we had our first security team meeting, okay? Because it was baked into Zephyr right from the start. Well, before we even started Zephyr, we had some focus group discussions with embedded developers in Dublin. And we had this RTOS, and so like, what are you looking for in RTOS? And the overwhelming message was we want security. Because remember I don't know how many people remember back in 2015, but in 2015, security was the S in IoT. Does anyone else remember that joke? Yeah, okay. So that was the environment you started this project on. So getting security right was the focus from this project right from the start. And we tried to figure out how we document our threat model, how we basically start to follow best practices and everything else. And we wanted to make sure it was good for products. And so we took part of the model that Lyft currently used, which is just having a long-term support. So there's our current release, and then every periodic, which is 2.5 years, we do an LTS that is, supposed to be supported for 2 years. As of a year ago, we basically extended that to 5, partially in reaction to the need for supporting things for CRA. And the idea of this is a place where we could put the security fixes in the back ports. You could build a product on it and then have it be able to be used without worrying about keeping up with the API changes and so forth at the tip. Our LTS support windows, as you can sort of see here, this is our LTS right now that we're doing. We'll be supporting to 2029. 4.0 was supported to mid last year, and then 4.1 again last year, and now we're on to the next one. And these were our prior LTSs. So this is all right from our website. We can all see the latest status there. And as I look at it, I should just probably update that screenshot. But as you can sort of see, this is kind of where we go. And we've got a history now of we're on our 3rd LTS at this point in time. And there's periodic security updates with vulnerabilities listed and fixed. And that's what we're doing. So we've got information there, and this is not where you're going to find the bleeding edge, but this is going to be where you want to have your stuff that goes in the bleeding edge intercept when the next LTS comes out, and try to get it in at least the release beforehand, so that we're not trying to push too much right at the LTS. And then it kicks up to date where the security fix is going forward. And that's just the philosophy we've adopted. We actually were one of the first adopters of the CI best practices badge. It used to be known as the core infrastructure, and now it's the OpenFSF best practices. And we use this to help structure our security project, our security programs and some of the milestones, because they had gone into a lot of deep thought about what was good security. So we figured, okay, let's see if we can get the badge. And we got the basic passing badge within the first year, but we also then went on and got our gold badge after we became a CVE numbering authority. And these are things that, we've got guidance towards. And so that we actually have been with MITRE since 2017 as a project. Usually it's just companies who do products that are out there. But we actually took our project up there and made that available. And so our security team, we have a PCERT team for those who are in the security space, and they're the ones who get the vulnerabilities, do the analysis, and do the triage work with the maintainers, do a fix, and then upstream and then back coordinate. Okay. And as you can sort of see, we've got a lot of vulnerabilities that have been published. I need to probably get this one a little bit updated too, but we started moving everything over to GitHub at 21. So you can sort of see, we've got some track record there now too. And one of the things that we're pretty proud of, and is really going to help us with CRA and notifications, is we actually have a free vulnerability registry. So if you have a product, now this is for product makers, okay? It's free to register. So if you can point to us and say, my product is using Zephyr, you can go ahead, register, and we'll push you a notification when there's vulnerability fix. Okay? And this is part of the communication to the CRA code to try and manage. And so this is already in place for several years. So now it's there for addressing things for the CRA. And we have a specific time scale. We try to fix in the project within 30 days and then keep it under embargo for another 60. For the CRA, we may adjust that because they have slightly different, things. There's no reason to keep it under embargo when they have to be visible about it. We did add the SBOM generation 2021. So there's about 5 years of it. Oops. And what it does is, if you're part of an SDK, you can get that, but you get the Zephyr sources, the app sources, and then the build image. And everything is sort of linked that way to file information. So it's kept reasonably discrete, not too horrible in terms of size. But the nice thing about what you're getting on Zephyr here is you know exactly which files are there. Okay? So if there's a vulnerability in something that's in the Zephyr such and such release, if your image isn't used in that file, you don't have to update and you can prove it, people. And that is going to be more and more critical, I think, for people as we have to improve our security posture. And literally, these 3 commands with West are all it takes at this point right now to actually get those SBOMs generated, which is why at Micro in the Renode situation, has these SBOMs all generated by that way. It literally is that straightforward. And that's that dashboard I love, which is literally anything that's got generated, passed, or built, you can download your SBOMs. So there, let's see what's going on. Okay. And this is what it looks like for those who spend some time. And this is the SPDX 2.3 spec. But what it does is it creates symbolic links to these files with hashes so that you can actually make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. And this gives you a way of linking things that are dispersed, but also just keeping things related to what you actually want. So you can sort of see this .c was all part of these .c's were all part of this .a, and the ELF images coming in from these pieces and so forth. So you can have that traceability pretty clear. And we added a security working group that meets every 2 weeks. And so if you're interested in security standards or embalming code analysis tools, that's a good place to start talking to people. And oops, hello, I'm sorry about that. I don't want the game there. There, okay. And then we did some work, map sheet to the ETSI 303-645 for those who are interested in that. And we've got this publicly in our documentation. So if that's in your world, then it's a place to go consult. We've also done we've actually had 2 security audits done on the project. We had one done originally out of the blue for us. And they basically helped influence our changes to some of these policies, quite frankly. And they found a bunch of things. But then last year when we actually it's 2 years by now, but we did it, we commissioned them to go and do it on the same audit on us to see where, have things, as anything regressed that we're not aware of. And they didn't really find much at this point. So 2 low severities were caused by overflow. So at this point in time, we're pretty solid, I think. We'll be checking things before the next LTS, I think. But, we learn things by doing these audits and enhancing the security and increasing the confidence and having a third party look at it, independent of the developers. Helps build trust too. And so if you're interested in that side of it, here's a link in the slides to our details. And listen to Flavio and David are the leads for the security committee, and Bill. One's the chair, one's the architect for the course. Sort of bounce back and forth between them. And so for 2020, for when you go through us as Stewart Readiness, we've got a whole presentation. And if someone's interested in this topic, just come talk to me. I'll share it with you. But we've gone through all the articles relevant to what the stewards have to do. And we pretty much have most of the things covered, except for we have not identified who our CSERT's going to be that we'll work with as a project. And then, but for the most part, we've already been sending notifications to the MBD and so forth. So it's just another set of people to talk to. So we're actually in a reasonable shape. And this is why that vulnerability registry, we have a way of starting to notify them if they've signed up. But again, see heard your comment about you're not quite sure where the vulnerability, which products are running Zephyr. And so that's at least the way for us to proactively do it with people. And then we've been, the CV authorities have found conditions with us and said, hey, you've got these TPs, your gears, things like that. So we're used to working with that. So we're seeing things up as we go. So as you can sort of see, we're doing weekly scans already. We'll be adding more of this type of work into the project in this next year. We've got, the project has gotten the bug tool contracting aside. And so you'll be seeing it slowly and get, automatically engaged in helping us to keep code quality up. And we've got our best practices documented, and we've got the SBOM generation per the SPDEX, which is an ISO standard. So it's ISO standard at this point. Now, how much time do I have? Okay, 5 minutes? Yeah. So where we are with safety right now, we've been focusing on functional safety. And this is a bit of a holy grail for us, that we can try a bunch of different things. How do we do open source and be able to be safety certified? Okay, stay safety certified when you do security fixes. Because right now it's a very manual process. Anyone who runs into Nicole at FOSDEM, she'll be there this week. Get her to talk to you about it, because it's something that we really need. It's something that's a very big pain point. And as you can sort of see, Zephyr heading to more and more safety critical needs to be able to handle this. Most of the safety analysis and the safety engineering that's been done has an assumption of V model, where you're working from a requirements framework and you're subcomposing it and working it down. And we're working on trying to and we've got a strategy figured out on how we can adhere to that from the part of what we find to be in scope. And so our initial scope is mostly just the kernel and a couple of handlers on the outside, and very simple. But what we're trying to do is do all this in the open so that people can see our pattern. The pieces that we don't do, that they may want to do, they contribute the analysis the same way they contribute code right now. Because we need this to scale. But what we're trying to do is clarify what the requirements are and link the code and requirements to test together. And if we can do that, we can start to do the auditation. And so we've got some strategies in that direction, and I happen to go deep into it. But we are working with Zephyr as a safety element out of context. Those who are aware of this. And we've actually got our coding guidelines established, and from a subset of MISR rules applying. We have some static analysis tools, and we're hoping to have this end-to-end example going. It's getting close. It's not quite there, so I guess I'll change the target date. And we want to have human-readable ways of understanding and working with this. And so there's an open source tool called StrictDoc that we're working with to help automate a lot of this stuff. Oops. And at the end of 2024, we went through this. We went to TUSU with this concept, and we did get our approval. So we've got our concept 1 approval. We just have to do what we say we want to do, and then we should be able to get certified. And it's open source, so it's a question of which volunteers are working on which features, et cetera, and that's what's determining the pace of it. We've got our path. We just need to populate with people working on these things. So it could be anywhere from 6 months from now to a year and a half from now. But I'm hoping that we will get it done this year. Quite frankly, that we will be able to take for the assessment to get our formal certification before we go to our RTOS. Okay, and that's our critical path. Is we've got to finish our requirement traceability on the analysis and then finish our assessment. And we've got a committee that defines the scope and which certifications are going after. So right now we're working on 61508, but 2626.2 is in our contract, these two, and we think we can hit it. And we also think we can hit it as lots of work, with this approach. So after we get to 61508, 2626.2, there's a couple of other standards we'll be helping us determine which ones we'll go after next. And so if you're interested in getting, for those who had raised their hands started, you're interested in getting started, we do have a Getting Started guide, and lots of code samples and lots of information. And the community pretty much lives on Discord. It's about, 8,000? That you know? About that? Yeah. There's about 8,000 folk on Discord right now in the community. So And it's a pretty friendly community, so if you've got questions, you get stumped, things like that. You know, this place asks. It responds pretty quick. And then here's the links to all places to participate, including the Discord at the bottom. And this project would not be possible without our members supporting our infrastructure. So these are our platinum members, and they're the ones that help sort of determine the scope and everything else. So a big thank you to them. And as you can see, our silver members are continuing to grow. And I don't even list the affiliates, but we're starting to see some automotive ones showing up here. We're starting to see some Chinese ones showing up here, as well as, you know, the medical and so forth. And Schneider just became a member in this last bit. And I've got a few more ones that I'm hoping to land event pretty soon too. And that's pretty much all I have. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a feel for where the project is right now, what we're focusing on. Okay, thank you much.